Welcome to Washington at Work. I'm Diana LONGRIE. Thank you for tuning in. Washington at Work looks at issues of national importance. From time to time we have film footage that we find on C-SPAN that we think is of importance to bring to citizens. Washington at Work, we look at issues having to do with peace, justice, and jobs. Of course, one of those issues that's very key and important to our country is that of having health care for all. One of the meetings that recently was looking into some of the issues as to who was lobbying for the recent Health Care Insurance Reform Act a year ago is the Ways and Means Committee meeting of April 1st. Now we have some film footage of this. Again, as I mentioned, it's from C-SPAN. And what they decided that they wanted to do is that they wanted to take a look at AARP and the role that it played in really promoting the passage of the Health Care Insurance Reform Bill that was passed approximately a year ago. So let's start off by looking at our first film clip, and this is first House of Representative on the Ways and Means Committee is a Republican, and there's also, of course, we've got film footage of some of the Democrats. And it's interesting listening to the debate that they have between them and trying to understand this issue of lobbying for health care. So let's take a look.
There are some things that we believe happened in that health care bill that seniors adamantly oppose. So you don't believe that seniors support the rationing of care, do you?
We don't support it, and I'm sure seniors don't support
exactly.
it.
And we believe that's in the bill, and so there's that inconsistency. You don't believe that seniors want it more difficult for them to find a physician to care for them, do you?
They have been supportive of the doc fix. We have been supportive of the doc fix.
But I get seniors all the time in my district who say, I can't find a Medicare doctor. I can't find a Medicare doctor because of the rules that have been put in place, and many believe that that's going to increase. And I know that you don't support that. You don't support a decrease in innovation in the health care system, do you? Seniors don't, do they?
I don't think anyone supports
exactly.
The lack of innovation.
Exactly.
I believe that there are some aspects of the legislation that is there to help innovation.
And absolutely, and there's a difference of opinion in there. So there's a difference of opinion among seniors, just like there's a difference of opinion among the regular population out there, which again is why so many of us scratched our head and said, well, what's AARP doing? There's a huge difference of opinion. In fact, the majority of seniors right now believe that the bill will in fact decrease their ability to get the kind of care that they desire.
That was the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee meeting of April 1st, 2011. They have decided to investigate into AARP's role and lobbying efforts with regard to this as part of the Ways and Means Committee's oversight over the Medicare and Medicaid. AARP, of course, is also an insurance provider, or that they let other insurance companies use their trademark, their logo, so to speak, of AARP in the marketing of their health insurance product. And so that is ultimately the question. Is there a reason behind why AARP was so supportive of the health insurance reform bill, or was it because they were true to their mission to seniors? Let's take a look at our next clip.
According to AARP's consolidated financial statement, AARP's royalty revenue, which comes primarily from insurance companies, was $240 million in 2002 and grew to $657 million in 2009, an increase of nearly 200%. During this same period, AARP's revenues from membership dues, advertising, and federal and other grants have remained relatively flat. It is safe to say that AARP could not operate or function as it does today without the money it makes from its insurance business, which certainly raises suspicion about where AARP's motives lie. If AARP did not have the nearly $250 million in royalty payments coming in, most of which are from insurance companies, what sort of changes would AARP need to make?
Quite frankly, AARP is very proud of the fact that its membership dues are kept low. We work at keeping them low.
They're trying to understand exactly what motivation there might be, if any, and how that has an impact on their lobbying efforts as a 503c3 organization. AARP has been quite an advocate for seniors' issues. They are well known, the best known, I would say, of all the organizations that are out there advocating for seniors and senior issues. As our communities and our population becomes older and our demographics change and we are an aging society, that it becomes more and more necessary to have good advocates out there for seniors and senior issues. In looking at some of the statistics, AARP is actually the fourth highest spending lobbying organization between 1998 and 2010. Now, in some of our film footage, AARP does come out and say that they do not have a PAC as an arm of their organization. Of course, a PAC is a political action committee. And a political action committee is an organization or an arm of an organization that has the ability to be able to endorse candidates, to be able to present arguments in defeating candidates, to be able to support initiatives or bills, and actually spend money with regard to those types of endorsing efforts. Now, AARP does not have a PAC, but as I indicated, they are the fourth highest lobbying efforts that have spent the most money. Now, when I was recently in Washington, D.C., I was talking with a different organization and talking to them about, do they do lobbying? Are they lobbyists? And they made a very clear distinction that I think in many ways is exactly the way that a lot of organizations who are nonprofit organizations operate. Is that they indicated, this organization indicated that they're not lobbyists, that as a nonprofit that they can't do those types of activities, that they cannot promote or endorse candidates or particular initiatives. But what they do is that they bring their information to Capitol Hill and that they educate about the issues as to why a representative should support a particular bill or not support a particular bill. And that what they're doing is providing insight and education with regard to the topic that is of interest to the organization. The reality of the real world, as you're talking to somebody, you're trying to educate them about an issue or a topic or a bill and why they should support it or not support it, that in some sense you are indeed lobbying for that issue that is important to you. It may not technically, according to the IRS rules or according to the campaign finance rules or according to the political Action Committee rules be lobbying, but certainly, you know, you're supporting and promoting the support or the denying of a particular issue. AARP sells insurance products. The AARP brand dominates the private Medicare insurance market. One of the issues that a citizen brought to me is that they wanted to know whether or not if AARP was supportive of having single-payer health care. And I tried to do a little research on that, and I found conflicting stories. I found that at one point that the AARP did indeed, back in 2007, support a particular bill in the House of Representatives that was a single-payer health bill. But then later, in 2009, that there was actually another single-payer health bill in the House of Representatives that it appeared that AARP did not support. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at our next clip.
I do hope, and Chairman Bustani has said this, so I applaud him for having said this, that we will continue to do oversight, because whether Mr. Rand or Mr. Hammond is AARP or any other organization that wishes to get favorable treatment from the taxpayers of this country, we have an obligation to do oversight, to make sure that no one abuses of the opportunity to be treated differently in the tax code than any other American who is paying his or her full share of taxes. And so I think it would have been wholly appropriate to have AARP or any other nonprofit come before this committee and explain itself if we legitimately thought there was something going on. And so I hope, Mr. Chairman, I hope that we will conduct true oversight, because I can tell you about any number of organizations that have swindled the American public out of precious contributions and done very few things that are good for this country. Perhaps the biggest concern I have is that, it's actually kind of funny, today as I realized as I was walking back, today is April 1st, April Fool's Day, and if it weren't for the fact that we've been at this for over 4 hours, it would be a joke. But this is not a joke, and my sense is it's not a joke because I suspect what we're trying to do here, what some are trying to do here through these hearings, is perhaps silence voices instead of have full participation in this process. And so I hope, Mr. Chairman, this is not an effort to try to silence voices of people who represent seniors in America, because my understanding is that with regard to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, there are efforts underway to cut the benefits for seniors in America, and I hope that this House is willing to do the hearings that it takes to show the American people that we're working for them, not against them. So
If the Ways and Means Committee is going to be doing oversight with regard to Medicare and Medicaid, that there's probably more than just one organization that they could be doing oversight over to determine whether or not conducting their business affairs as they should according to how they are organized under the law. Now, one of the reasons why this is important to make sure that there is oversight, because certain organizations, depending upon how they are organized under the law, it has an impact on the rules that they have to follow. There are certain rules set in place so that each organization who is organized under a particular law has certain guidelines that they have to abide by when they're either doing lobbying or that they are doing efforts for their members of their organization, because they take members' dues in good faith with the expectation of those members of what is going to be done with the members' money. Depending upon how a company or an organization is organized under the law, it will have different impact upon what rules under the IRS regulations that they fall under. And certainly there are more preferable tax treatment for some organizational structures rather than other organizational structures. But in the end, depending upon which structure you have, also determines what kind of leeway you have as to being able to do lobbying, to be able to do endorsement, to be able to do political activities. It's generally thought that nonprofit organizations are not to be engaged in political activities in endorsing candidates. There was indeed some discussion with regard to this issue of the IRS tax regulations and how they apply to organizations who are member-sponsored organizations. Let's take a look at our next clip.
To echo what my colleague from California said, you know, that you may think that this would be some type of cruel April Fool's joke, hauling you before a congressional committee, but it really isn't. I mean, whenever you're subjected to a prosecutorial inquiry before a United States Congress committee, it's a serious matter. And I think it's unfortunate because I don't want to ascribe any motives on the other side, but on its surface at least, this appears to be a form of selective retribution or political retribution here. There are many other organizations and individuals who could be sitting up there right now answering the same type of questions and inquiries that you have been subjected to over the last few hours, but they're not. And I think that's unfortunate because if there's anything that ultimately works for the tax code, it's the feeling that it is being applied and addressed fairly to everyone in this country and not being used as some type of political weapon. And we can go through a litany of organizations that are collecting royalties, licensing fees that are tax exempt under the code, from television stations to universities to the Chamber of Commerce, the NFIB, to the Association of Health Insurance Plans, and on and on and on, that the same questions could be directed to here. And on the surface, it just smacks of political retribution. And everyone on this committee, I'm sure, has not been in complete agreement with AARP and where they come down on policy issues. I wasn't with you in 2004 when you were supporting the Medicare Modernization Act, which also created the new prescription drug benefit plan for seniors. And the main reason I wasn't is because it was the largest expansion of entitlement spending since Medicare was created in 1965, and not a nickel of it was paid for. It all went to deficit financing. And there was language in it that prohibited the price negotiation with drug companies in that bill. Significant policy differences. And yet, Republicans, when they were in control of the Congress then, that was a bill that they had offered, you had supported it, they were not coming back the next week or the next month subjecting you to these type of questions. It was only after you had the audacity to support the Affordable Care Act that they want to haul you before here and start questioning about your royalty payments. When again, a list of organizations could very well be subjected to the same line of inquiry. In fact, today, Mr. Chairman, our former representative, our colleague Billy Tozen, wrote an article for The Political, a Capitol Hill publication here, titled, "Don't Play Politics with AARP." And in that article, I'd like to just quote one paragraph that he wrote, and I quote, "The fact is that the organization, AARP, gets significant revenue from licensing its name to others and selling products. But that isn't unusual. Many nonprofit health insurers like Care First, member organizations like NRA, trade associations like the American Bankers Association, and human service activities like the Red Cross get significant revenue from product sales or name licensing." That's the point that I was just making. So Mr. Rand, maybe you could inform the committee, how many dues-paying members does AARP have today? About 37 million, just shy of 40 million. And yet it's my understanding that AARP does not spend a nickel directly advocating the election or the defeat of any candidate running for office in the United States. Is that correct?
That's correct, and we don't have a PAC.
And you don't have a PAC. So you're not contributing any campaign funds to any person, Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, running for office.
That's correct. Nonpartisan and bipartisan.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but the 60 Plus Association that views themselves as the conservative alternative to AARP, do you know how many dues-paying members the 60 Plus Association has?
I don't know, not many.
Well, let me answer that for you. None. Zero. They take all their contributions from wealthy interests out there that don't have to be disclosed. They turn around and run negative attack political ads against candidates throughout the country, and they are a tax-exempt organization. And it's not surprising that we don't find them sitting next to you here today either, because they basically went on the attack against Democratic candidates in the last election cycle. But let me also ask you that let me get to the crucial question here. I think AARP supported the Affordable Care Act, and we want to know why today. Was it because there was a direct financial benefit for you of what was in this legislation that was passed, or was it based on substantive or policy reasons of why you supported the Affordable Care Act?
It had nothing to do with revenues. It was 100% focused on our mission and what our seniors and 50-plus populations were saying that they needed for the American dream.
Yeah, and what more specifically that you found in the Affordable Care Act that made sense for your members to come out in support of that?
We talked about no pre-existing conditions, which is what they wanted, what we advocated for. Stopping of age discrimination through age rating, which they said as we get older, we have less money.
There are many different companies that, because of their long-standing reputation, because their members know that there is a particular mission in which that organization is well known for, that if that organization then says, you know, we feel confident enough to be able to sell our name or our brand, or to license our brand, our name, to some other product or company that we feel is consistent with our mission, that it's a way to signal to the members that indeed this other company is of like mind or consistent in mission or compatible with the members' interests. Well, it's no different for AARP or any number of other organizations, and that, as you heard, this is actually one of the ways that they are able to raise money, to make money, to keep their organization going, that they license their name or that they contract with a company who has a product or a service to say that they have indeed been given that check of approval. We have a little bit more in the way of film footage from the Ways and Means Committee, so we're coming down to the end of our program. So let's take a look at one more clip before we sign off.
Please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to raise a question of committee procedure. Mr. Chairman, according to the hearing advisory release, March 25th, any organization has until April 15th, 2011 to submit written comments as long as they follow the process set forth in the advisory. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that applies to any organization. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, would that also apply to our witness before us today, AARP? Chairman, would that also apply to our witness before us today, AARP?
Now, our witness today have had an opportunity to submit their testimony for this committee, so they've already had that opportunity.
Well, it's my...
Can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, again, AARP has had their opportunity to submit their testimony and submit for the record, so that's already been
Well, Mr. Chairman,
extended to them.
it's my understanding that the report is 26 pages long with 243 footnotes and was only released on Wednesday. This was not sufficient time for AARP to review and develop written comments. We should have the benefit of a full record. That's the point, to get to get your question and all of our questions answered.
I'd mentioned to the gentleman that we met with AARP 2 weeks ago and went over this report with them. So they've had 2 weeks to be able to submit to us their reports. Again, we'd like to move on.
Approximately April 21st, 2011, the Ways and Means Committee did seek additional information from AARP to try to understand some of the information that was not available at that hearing, or if there was a need to clarify information. What they issued, and of course you can actually go to the website for the U.S. House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee. They have their own website, and this, of course, I think has got a wealth of information for citizens who would like to know more about what the Ways and Means Committee is looking at, because indeed they have oversight authority over many different things. And so if you want to know what they are watching and what they are looking into, the best place to go and find that information out is at their website. This letter is, by the way, on their website. They issued about a 7-page letter to AARP with regard to other issues and information that they wanted to have. And just to kind of give you a spotlight of some of those issues, let's take a look. They wanted to have information on the royalty amounts that AAR receives on an annual basis. They wanted to know more about that. And they wanted to have they asked them to please list the royalty amounts separately for each insurance product type, because there are many different types of products, insurance products that AARP is affiliated with. Those different royalty amounts that they wanted for the different insurance types had to do with the insurance product types of the Medicare Advantage, the Medicare Part D prescription drug plans under AARP's current contract with United, and that contract runs to 2014. Another question they had is the amount of money AARP earned on the interest from holding insurance premiums for AARP branded insurance products, and the amount of taxes paid, if any, on that interest earned. So what they're trying to get at is indeed how big of a financial stake does AARP have in this whole health insurance reform Act outcome and preserving the presence of health insurance companies. The other questions, a detailed description and funding amount of the member services provided to AARP today. At the hearing, they weren't able to provide that information with regard to, again, the detailed description and the funding amount of member services provided to AARP members. So basically a breakdown that if a member of AARP pays in their dues, what percentage of those dues, that membership dues, how much is going towards services for the member, whether or not if it's informational booklets or the production of the website or whatever it is, or and how much of it goes towards maybe administrative. How much of it goes towards promoting the efforts on Capitol Hill to be the 4th largest spending lobbying organization promoting the interests of seniors. All of these are very important information. Now, of course, we don't know exactly where this is all going to lead, because they did indeed give AARP time to answer these questions, and they asked that the information be provided to the offices of the Ways and Means Committee no later than May 5th of 2011. In our next program, cover what the second panel had to discuss with regard to this issue in front of the Ways and Means Committee. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Washington at Work, where it's important to always focus on the national level on peace, justice, and jobs. Thank you very much.